Good morning, everybody. How are you doing?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Well. Just be forewarned. My my Zoom has been acting up a little bit today. So at least it was for my last class. So hopefully we don't have any hitches. All right. So I want to. Is everybody on now? I know a lot of people are still joining. Okay. So I would like us for I would like us to read the rest of chapter 10, where we're going to go from page 172 to page 186. Okay? And we will discuss both the speech. We're going to discuss both the speech and the last parts of the response to his speech. That will be the discussion for today. Okay.
Okay.
So
which pages again?
Let me go ahead. This page, I'm going to put that in the chat.
Okay.
All right. The chat. It's going to be page 172 to 186, chapter 10 of the story of my life and work. And that was located on Blackboard. So the question, I'm also going to note the questions I would like you to look for answers to. What was the response to the speech? And what did he state was his okay. how did he respond to request to be a professional orator? Okay, I think that. So yeah, so those are the two main questions I would like you to look for with this. What was the response to the speech, and how did he respond to the request to be a professional orator as it relates to the last 14 pages of the chapter. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and let everyone into I'm going to open up the breakout rooms now. So when you go into the breakout rooms, I want you to work together, or also answer the questions, and then come back and report on the response. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do less rooms this time. Automatically close out. So you'll have 20 minutes for this. And I want to do I'm going to do 5 rooms this time. That'll put 5 people per room. That should be enough to get somebody. Okay. All right. Good morning, Miss Washington and Mr. White.
Good morning. Good morning.
Miss Washington, we are morning. We're reading chapter three. You probably can't see the notes, so I'm putting the notes in. Check the chat. Reading page 172 through 186 of chapter 10 of the story of my life and work, and you're answering the question: what was the response to the speech, and how did he respond to requests to
There's
be a
nothing
professional
in the
orator?
chat.
Let me see. That's because I didn't press enter yet. All right, can you see that? You should see it in chat now.
Yes, I see it.
All right. So if you didn't download it, go to Blackboard and download the speech or the reading dealing with the story of my life and work. We're looking at chapter 10, pages 172 to 186. So I'm going to assign you all to some breakout rooms, and you'll join them and discuss the reading among y'all. And when you finish, you'll come back and report on the answers to those two questions. Okay. What did the phone say? What's the code on my phone? Bring me my phone. Ready for some good feedback? Okay, so let's see if we can go by breakout rooms today. So the first breakout room, what did you say is the was the response to his speech?
We said it was like good feedback. He was getting a lot of applause, a lot of praise. That the speech was very influential to everyone. And it said some of the blacks are crying, I guess like tears of joy of how good it was.
Okay, so give me support where I can find that. Where can I find your response? Or give me some evidence, like what page should I look at for your response?
At the bottom of page 175 and like at the top of page 176, it said within 10 minutes, the multitude was in an uproar of enthusiasm. Handkerchiefs waved, canes flourished, hats tossed in the air. The fairest women in Georgia stood up and cheered.
Okay. All right. How about breakout room 2?
What was the question?
We're looking at the first question. How did what was the response to the speech?
I think I was into. Forgot to look at the number of my breakout room, but one of them.
Or you can just jump in. We'll just assume you're 2. How about that?
All right. So like he was invited to be a judge. Like the crowd. Well, that was later, but the crowd was on their feet cheering. It was extremely emotional for lots of people in the audience.
Okay, what page should we refer to support your answer?
Let me find it real quick. I think the page was 179 and maybe 178. Let me look at it real quick. I think 179.
We're on 179.
Oh, no, there it is. 176, actually. Yeah, like one of the first paragraphs talked about how the crowd was roaring and paragraph saying that I have heard the great orators of many countries. And it's talking about that the crowd was just roaring and with approval, and how he took that in stride and never really didn't even change like his facial expressions.
Okay. All right. How about the next group?
I think I was in group 3. It people from all over, like who heard about the speech, were very supportive and congratulated him to the point like he couldn't even go out to run a simple errand without being overwhelmed by the positive reception of people just wanting to shake his hand and tell him you did a great job, congratulations. That supported on page, it started on like page 182 to like 183. Yeah, 182 to 183, of where he talked about different examples of where he was attempting to go out and do normal things, and even when he was traveling back to Tuskegee, and how he was overwhelmed with people giving him congratulations and stuff.
Okay. All right. Next group. You got anything else to add?
Did someone already quote page 177? Let me see. Is that,
Whereabouts?
yep, the second paragraph, 177, it says, at the close of the speech, Governor Bullock, did someone already quote that? I don't want to
No,
be
no one quoted
redundant.
that.
Okay, yeah, so it says, at the close of the speech, Governor Bullock rushed across the platform and seized the orator's hand, which was Booker T. Washington. Another shout greeted this demonstration, and for a few moments, the two men stood facing each other, hand in hand. So he was giving him, I guess he was congratulating him, but also when you're shaking a man's hand, that just shows basic respect. And that could be a form of, congratulating him, just giving him,
Okay. Okay. For our last group, what was the response of African Americans to his speech?
On page 176, it was said that there were Black people in the audience crying, perhaps without knowing why.
Yes.
The bottom of 176, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty powerful. Also, even in the page before that, it said it wasn't normal for a Black man to speak for his own people and no one interrupted him. So I thought that was really good too.
So I think we can conclude that his speech was well received by all. Well, I'll preface this by saying he's writing it, so we always have to be critical of the source of our information, right? So the fact that Booker T. Washington's writing a book about himself, it's just human nature. We have a tendency to focus on the positive receptions, maybe not the negative. However, we can't deny the account of what happened both immediately following the speech, and I like how he provides evidence. So it's not just my word, right? He's providing evidence from the editor of the Constitution and the Boston transcript, page 179. The Boston transcript states that the editor of the Constitution states that the question of social equality is eliminated as a factor in the development of the problem, and the situation is aptly expressed by Washington in the statement that in all things that are purely social, we can be as separate as the fingers, yet one as the hand in all things essential to mutual progress. The speech will do good, and the unanimous approval with which it has been received demonstrates the fact that it has already done good. So the fact that he's actually citing folks who is not just like, don't just take my word for it. I know what I felt, I know what I experienced, but this is what people said after my speech. The Boston Transcript editorial also stated the speech of Mr. Washington, this is page 179, at the Atlanta Exposition this week seemed to have dwarfed all the other proceedings and the exhibition itself. The crowd that listened to it were carried away with enthusiasm, and the sensation press has rarely been equaled. The Southern papers themselves pronounced it epoch-making and call it the beginning of the end of the war between the races. All this is no great surprise to those who have kept themselves informed upon the development of industrial and other education for Negroes in the Negro populated districts of country. So he's pointing out there's a seminal speech in Dr. Washington's career. As I've noted in the past, this speech elevated him to leadership among all African Americans. So if you look at page 174, the last paragraph, it states that Mrs. Thompson, head of the department, had scarcely taken her seat when all eyes were turned on a tall, tawny Negro sitting in the front row on the platform. It was Professor Booker T. Washington, president of the Tuskegee Normal Institute, who must rank from this time forth as the foremost man of his race in America. And so it is, he's immediately thrust to the forefront of leadership in this country for African Americans. And this speech, while it was very well received, it was well received the next 3 or 4 years, the speech also began to be criticized tremendously. Can anybody, in talking about, well, actually, before we talk about the speech real quick, what was his response to people stating that he should become a professional orator? And anybody can answer this question.
That his focus was Tuskegee.
Okay, what page is this?
Oh. Give me a second. It's one of the last couple ones.
I think it's 185.
Yeah.
Okay, so what does he state?
To all these communications, I replied that my life work was at Tuskegee and that wherever I should speak, it must be in the interest of my race and the institution at Tuskegee, and that I could not accept any engagements that would seem to place a mere commercial value on my address.
What's the significance of that type of statement?
I feel as though he's saying he wants to keep the authenticity of Tuskegee and not make it, he wants to only put out things that are in the interest of Tuskegee, and he doesn't want to make it seem like this is just things he would speak about for anything in a way.
Yeah, he's not a sellout.
Yes.
Specifically Tuskegee is what he wants to do.
Yes. I'm pointing these out because as you travel beyond Tuskegee, you may travel now and hear the discussion that is within this country, the Washington versus Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois debate is held as a seminal conflict between two opposing views about how African Americans should operate in this country, and those who speak about the debate, which is not really, they never actually debated. So it's not like Washington and Du Bois themselves had a debate. Washington and Du Bois were not contemporaries. Dr. Washington was actually his senior. He was much older than W.E.B. Du Bois. However, and they also came from different backgrounds. We'll talk about that. But what's important to realize is that many people have always questioned Dr. Washington's commitment to the elevation of African Americans because of that speech. And if we want to understand his commitment to the work of Tuskegee, it doesn't get any clearer than this right here in his own words. He just gave this speech. He's getting calls all over the world. He's connecting with the president of the United States. He could easily say, all right, forget Tuskegee. I'm going out there and make a name for myself as the black man who can speak for everybody. But he's clear. If it don't have anything to do with Tuskegee, then don't call me. And if it doesn't have anything to do with me having a conversation about the authenticity of the work we do, meaning I'm not interested in it from pure commercial gain. I'm not interested in profiting from this. I'm interested in spreading the word. And if the money that you give me is to pay for me to spread the word, hey, let's go. But if it's because you want me to tailor my conversation to something that's more befitting you, then that's not a conversation that you and I can. That's not an engagement I can agree to. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the speech a little bit. What were your thoughts about the speech?
Me personally, I can see to both sides, like how some people, how some people think, I know some people thought he was like a sellout kind of in a way with this, but I can also see how it kind of benefited people too. I don't know how to explain it.
See,
All right. Why would they consider him a sellout because of the speech?
in Booker T. Washington, he wanted African Americans to stay in the South and progress in the South, while W.E.B. Du Bois, he wanted us as a race to move out of the South. Me personally, I feel like Booker T. Washington is a sellout because there's
Okay.
absolute
And why?
at the time that he gave this speech, there was absolutely nothing in the South for African Americans, nothing positive going for us. But to continue, what we've been going through for 400 years, like the discrimination and everything was just nothing was equal. Like there was no sign of equality. There was growth for us in the North as a people, as a race. There was like, I mean, I really don't like his views when it comes to staying in the South, especially not. I'm really against that. I really
Yeah,
back
I agree also.
I really back W.E.B. Du Bois on that, on moving out of the South.
Okay. I'm with this. So I think we gotta spend at least another day. I think we gotta spend at least another day on them. Maybe we'll have the discussion about their debate next week. And
I wish
the
they could have
reason well, there was no debate. And I'll quickly point out a few things that it's important. It's always important to put it in context. Washington is a man of born out of slavery. He's a man of the South, born in the South. Du Bois is a man whose family has been free for over 100 years and is coming out of the North. So automatically you have two totally different walks of life. Du Bois is the first African American to receive a doctorate from Harvard, and he's supported by blacks and whites, but he's coming out of a very what would be considered liberal environment. White people paid for him to get his education, and because his family has been free, he has a totally different interpretation for how you progress in the society. He's also puts a lot more emphasis on the value of the professional class, because he can be a part of that. Washington, because he's born and he's coming out of enslavement, he's learned to work, through hard work. He says this is how we're going to be able to progress. So the reason I say that we also have to be careful with this sense of a debate is because even in Du Bois's own words, the debate between Washington and Du Bois was actually carried on more by their followers than it was by themselves. Washington extended opportunities to Du Bois to work at Tuskegee, at least on 3 occasions. Du Bois actually asked for a job at Tuskegee, and word is that he actually taught a summer class at Tuskegee. And then, he wound up not working at Tuskegee, but the fact that he did work here and he was extended an opportunity to continue to work, it kind of undermines this idea of them being in opposition of one another. The other thing that we have to look at and reflect on is that Washington, in talking about we started talking about this last class. How did Washington back up his idea of casting down your bucket? How did he back that up? Oh man, that's a whole lot of good stuff going on. I said, is there any reset that comes with working in agriculture? Just a question. Ag majors don't come from Cleveland. Dr. Washington himself felt he was trying to do what was most realistic for Black people, which was agriculture and trades. I guess this goes to how do people perceive working in agriculture as a low-level job. You have to be switching up. So, okay. All right. So we have to, what we're going to do as we answer these questions, let's make sure that we support our answers with documentation. Okay? Because what I want to make sure we're doing is having a very critical read of Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, and anyone else, based upon their words and their actions. Does everybody can follow that?
Okay.
Okay. So, and this is the reason why we're looking at the readings and we're actually dissecting the readings, because it is a very difficult conversation to have if you don't have any documentation to substantiate. So, I want us to spend next week. I'm going to modify the syllabus a little bit. I want us to spend next week spending some time discussing what the concerns regarding Washington and Du Bois and some of the powers that were behind that work. Because I think I mentioned this in the beginning of the semester. I found it very interesting that we would not. And so, okay, Mr. Wright, Mr. White, what would you say? Would you consider Martin Luther King Jr. a sellout?
No. Why I gotta, well,
How about Malcolm X?
no, neither one of them.
How about Malcolm X?
Neither one.
Okay. All right. So how about Marcus Garvey?
I wouldn't say Marcus Garvey. No. Neither of the three.
Okay. Now, all three of them were Washingtonians.
Although,
So all three of them subscribed to Booker T. Washington's philosophies of self-empowerment, self-help. Martin Luther King subscribed to Washington's philosophy of not the sense of being separate, that they were different on, but they both believed in the elevation of Black people. And Marcus Garvey actually recognized Booker T. Washington as his, for lack of a better term, his leader. I'll show you the actual text where he writes a letter to Booker T. Washington, addressing him with a lot of honor. So, you know what we're going to talk about next week. I think next week's going to be really interesting, to really pick apart this debate. Go ahead.
no, I'm just, man, I was gonna say something. I ain't want to cut you off. You can go ahead. I ain't want to cut you off. It's okay. We can talk about it.
No, it's fine. I mean, we're running up on time.
I really disagree. The only thing I disagree with Booker T. Washington, he wanted us to remain separate, and I just feel like
some people,
in this world,
there's some arguments
in this world, you just cannot be successful only working with your race.
Hey, bro, check your chat. I just sent you something in the chat. Check it again, bro, before you keep saying stuff like that.
So we're gonna continue this conversation on Monday, and I think I'm gonna post I'm gonna post some stuff on Blackboard that you can start looking at, and we'll pick this up again on Monday. All right.
Cool.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. It's gonna be fun.
Have a good one.
Enjoy your weekend, and
Lord have mercy.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
Man, we about to have a good little discussion. See, it's like it's nobody's fault that there's still people that live today who have not, like, there's people that haven't left their county. That is your personal problem. Like, you have to yeah, we can talk about it.
So I'm gonna have to challenge you to make sure you catch up on the readings, because as we have this conversation, I'm very big on making sure that our engagement comes from the actual, it comes from text as opposed to our own thoughts, because sometimes we have thoughts that have been given to us and we wind up carrying forward an argument. And I gotta be honest, I will say, since I've started my scholarship on Washington, I will say I'm a Washingtonian at this point. I'm a strong subscriber to his philosophy, but I don't subscribe to it. I subscribe to it based upon looking at the evidence that he's left behind, and so that's how I'm positioned. And I've asked the same question I've asked this question: was he a sellout, or was he really here to elevate our people? So I'm loving fire. I'm definitely for it. I'm all for it. And just make sure you pick up the readings that we've covered thus far, which was the Founders Day address, his speech, and all of chapter 10. Read through those, and then if there's some things that are noted in that, go ahead and pull it out and look at the videos that we, from the previous classes as well, and then come with your position. All right.
Got it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's go. So I'll see everybody on Monday.